What's going on, everyone? We hope you had a great day in the market today, but even if you didn't, that's okay. We still have one more day left of the week, and we have a lot of great setups today, but you guys aren't even going to believe the news we have in today's video. Trump is launching his very own stock, which is very interesting. Palantir shares are still soaring. Amazon just reported earnings and had their slowest growth on record. And we have some pretty fun stats that are relevant to the market right now. We have a lot of great setups in today's video, and we have a whole lot to cover. So make sure to stick with us all the way until the end. But besides that, Tom, let's get right to it.
Yeah, the SPY was pretty slow and choppy today. It closed up by 0.35% though, as 51% of the S&P 500 was up in the green. We can see the heat map was actually fairly decent here. I would say there's some notable ones like Eli Lilly and Nvidia up over 3% each, which was nice. So I thought that was a big positive there, Mike. And then, we can see one little box here if we zoom in a little further, and that is Palantir up 9% today, and Palantir was blowing traders' minds today, Mike. You can see Palantir has been well above $100, getting above 110 even, and then here in after hours, we're all the way up to like 112.50 plus. Like, where's it gonna open tomorrow? 115? I was actually eyeing up 110 as a pretty big resistance intraday today, and I could not believe it got there and passed it at the end of the day. And Palantir has just had so much positivity coming off of its recent earnings report. And Mike, we talk about this all the time. Whenever a company reports earnings and we see a big move, keep watching it for moves the following days after. It might consolidate for a couple days like Palantir did, but as we started to see that recent high break today, there was some great intraday action, and they even had some news with Elon Musk where they added his Grok AI onto their AIP, which is pretty much their AI platform. So very interesting news there with Musk, and hey, Palantir's moving up into the heavens.
Oh my gosh, Tom, let's zoom out on maybe a daily chart to truly appreciate the move that Palantir has had. It has been in complete full rocket mode over these past few years, and the recent price action is just getting more and more intense. And like you said, yeah, they had some news today where they're integrating with Elon's AI and all that sort of stuff, but besides that, there wasn't any crazy insane new news to justify this movement. So I guess it's really just a continuation of this momentum and all of the hype with the quarter that they just crushed in terms of earnings. So that's super exciting to see. What are we looking at for the next levels? And there's not much resistance considering it's at all-time highs, but what's next?
Yeah, Mike, like you said, there's really no overhead levels. We're kind of in uncharted territory right now, and I know that every $5 level has been pretty large on Palantir in the short term, looking at 100, 105, 110, 115, 120, and we can actually go to the Bookmap and see that these stacks are where there were a ton of sellers stacked up. Even at 120 overhead right now, today, right before market close, there was 135,000 shares there, and there was almost 100,000 shares at 115. So as Palantir is rising in after hours, I'm definitely going to be watching for 115 and then 120 possibly tomorrow morning as well. But those are some levels to keep in mind. And like I said, the whole dollar levels and every $5 level is are the levels that Palantir really likes to bounce off of.
No doubt. And, it's just been moving so strongly. So, with that being said, no one knows that what the exact high will be for this one, of course. So it is extremely important to protect yourself because this move is awesome, but of course, it's not going to last forever. So, whether you're looking at Palantir in a longer term sense or a short term sense, make sure how you will exit this stock. So when it eventually does turn, you're not just left scrambling. So take the time to strategize now. And in the meantime, enjoy all of the great momentum. So that's awesome to see with Palantir, Tom. But Amazon also had some pretty big movement in after hours today, but it's just not it's not Palantir style.
Yeah, definitely not. More of in the opposite direction, and they actually had some pretty decent numbers. Sales were up 10% year over year, which I thought was nice for Amazon. But whenever I start to go through the numbers a little bit deeper, there are some negatives out there. So the first big negative is their guidance, okay? Their guidance actually came in a bit weak, and that is the part of their business that I thought was the most disappointing, right? Or the part of their earnings that was the most disappointing. And you can see right here that they're expecting these earnings to come in at 151 billion and 155.5 billion, while analysts were expecting 158.5 billion. So, their range did not even come close really to the analysts' expected range there. So I think that's the main reason why they're down in after hours, Mike. And of course, this is gonna just signal slower growth in the next quarter. Now, it'll be nice if they obviously grow more than expected next quarter, but at the end of the day, whenever your company reports a weak forecast, it generally doesn't do the best, and it's moving down pretty significantly in after hours as well, and I bet a lot of traders are going to look to target maybe even $200 over the next few weeks if this keeps continuing.
Yeah, so like the stock is pretty rough in after hours right now, and like you said, it's not that their earnings were like horrible, but their growth is slowing, and it's definitely concerning considering that if Amazon's sales do come in at like the levels that they are expecting, that would mark the slowest rate of growth for Amazon ever. And of course, that's not something you want to see. But either way, let's continue to have a close eye on this one, because in the same way with Palantir, where it had a big move after it reported earnings, Amazon has that same potential. And, of course, earnings moves apply to both directions. So just keep it on the radar for some big moving potential. Tom, what would you say are some key levels to keep an eye on in the charts?
Yeah, going out to Amazon on the hourly chart, I really like the 215 support coming up in the short term. There's been a lot of bounces right around 215, and in the short term, there's actually a lot of room from where Amazon is around 230 back down towards 215. Even the low of after hours today was around 221. So like if we start to see a good flush below there, 215 will definitely be a big one to watch. And then of course, once that breaks, I think everyone's going to be watching for $200 at that point. There's a pretty big range between like 200 and 215 where I think we could start to see it go more into free fall if we do start to see the price action shift in that direction.
All righty, sounds good. And then looking at the earnings for tomorrow, we do have CGC set to report before the bell. Like we talked about in yesterday's video, CGC is a cannabis company that has been gaining a decent amount of momentum in the short term, especially off of the RFK, basically priced in nomination. With that being said, of course, stocks move a lot based off earnings, and this stock already has a fair amount of momentum in general. So also just keep it on the radar as it will report before the bell. But shifting with some other important news of the day, one of the two big pieces of Trump news is that he said that he's not as concerned about what Powell does with rates as basically he once was. He basically said that his now main focus is on the 10-year Treasury yield, which is definitely a shift from his recent statements, and says a lot, because if we do see the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield continue to rise, not only will that put a lot of pressure on the market, as it has been over like the past 3 months or so, but it will also get Trump acting in a way that maybe can be a little bit irrational.
Yeah, exactly. He really wants to see a yield that falls down a little bit more. And, I will say, Mike, it did peak out a little while ago at this 4.8% mark, and it has been moving down over the past couple of weeks. And I'm definitely going to be watching it very closely off of some of these levels, like 4.35% and even 4.4% coming up here in the short term. But I think that the main focus here is if we continue to see the 10-year yield fall, he's not really going to care what Powell does, right? Like you said, though, that irrationality is going to get scary if we do see this pop back, and we'll be following the 10-year yield, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing a lot of crazy headlines if it starts to pop.
No doubt. Like, the best ways to follow the 10-year yield is looking at ticker symbol IEF. The more IEF rises, the more the 10-year yield is falling. So keep that in mind. If you are looking for a way to trade it, IEF is the way to go. You can also look at TLT, which is a little bit more liquid in the option sense, but it doesn't necessarily follow like 10-year yields. They're more for like longer dated yields. But either way, keep a close eye on these two tickers. And Tom, fill us in on what's going on with this supposed new Trump stock.
Yeah, this is crazy, right? Like, we already have DJT for Trump Media and Technology Group, and I will say it actually did pretty good today, up over 6%, but Trump is going to be launching an ETF. Now, this is pretty insane. It's a Bitcoin Plus ETF. There wasn't too much information. I can't wait to get the holdings and to see everything that they're doing with Bitcoin there, but this is a pretty crazy situation, and I do got to say this, we always talk about Nancy Pelosi doing insider trading and stuff, and we got Trump out here literally making his own ETF. So, I found that pretty interesting, but he's been doing so much with Bitcoin and just crypto in general, and it seems like that this is a pretty crazy thing that they're doing. They filed 6 trademarks to kind of get this going, and it sounds pretty awesome, Mike. Just more positive crypto news from Trump. And I would say that this definitely gives me more of a bullish stance on Bitcoin over the next 4 years while Trump's in.
No doubt. And looking at Bitcoin, it's around that $96,000 mark. It has been pretty slow like over these past couple of weeks or so, but it's still pretty close to its all-time highs in the grand scheme of things, which are like $109,000 per coin. So either way, let's keep a close eye on crypto as always, especially given this new Trump crypto ETF news. So that's very exciting. But Tom, how is SPY looking in terms of the charts, important levels, and analysis?
Yeah, in the short term, SPY is actually looking pretty good. We had a good pop today. Now, it did break the high from yesterday, which was pretty great to see, especially in after hours yesterday. SPY closed up around 6:05, and this morning we really gapped up above there, which was great, but it never really got anything going past that. We pretty much peaked out around 6:06, and you can see where the SPY rejected multiple times today. So I'm really going to watch those peaks, and more specifically, the high of day was right around 6:06. 650. So if we get a good break of that tomorrow, that's where I'm definitely going to become a bit more bullish on the SPY. And I'm really targeting 608 overhead if we get that break. And then I'll be targeting 609 and 610 right around that all-time high. So that's really what we're looking for on SPY to the upside for tomorrow. To the downside, I'm definitely watching the 603 support, which is right where SPY bottomed out today, and then $600 after that. And in the short term, Mike, we talked about this yesterday. I'm still watching for the SPY to potentially post a lower high here. But if it doesn't want to, and we get a good break going, hey, I'll take that too, right? We'll adapt either way.
You know it. You definitely have to listen to the charts, and I'll say that the market has been pretty strong all week. We started with a pretty rough gap down on Monday, and then ever since that Mexico tariff news came out, the market just went full rocket mode. So it's definitely off to a good start, and the short-term trend is definitely in the bulls' favor. But like you said, there definitely is some pretty serious resistance overhead, and that is not to be ignored. And we're just in a news-driven market right now. So continue to keep a close eye on, of course, just the news in general, but especially Trump-related news, and especially tariff-related news, because we still do not have a deal with China with their tariff problem. So we will see there. But as we know, the Super Bowl is this weekend, and we have some fun charts for everyone today heading into this. So of course these charts are just fun, but we could see that historically speaking, when there have been Super Bowl blowouts, which is defined as a 21-point difference or more, the market normally tends to do pretty good. So let's hope for a blowout this year, Tom.
That's pretty crazy. Like, looking at all these blowouts, like where there's been a 21 point or more differential in the score, it's actually insane to see how much the SPY has done well those years. Again, take these numbers with a grain of salt, but definitely something funny to look into. The average percent rise and the median is right around 14.6% and 13.6% there. So pretty insane to say, Mike. And then, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, they definitely definitely need to win too, as it looks like Philadelphia brings in some bad luck.
Oh no. So we can see when Philadelphia wins a World Series or Super Bowl, bad things happen. Oh my gosh. I was looking through this list, Tom, before we started recording, and some of these like events that coincide with big wins are just insane. For example, the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2018. Stocks had their worst year since 2008. The Phillies won the World Series in 2008. That was the year of the financial crisis. The Phillies won the World Series in 1980. There was the double dip recession of the early 1980s. In 1930, the Philadelphia Athletics at the time won the World Series, and the Great Depression happened. Like, they can't catch a break, Tom.
They really can't. And of course, the Philadelphia Athletics moved to Oakland. Now they're moving to Las Vegas. Kind of funny there. But yeah, just definitely, I'll be rooting for KC. They're kind of from my state anyways, so I'll probably be rooting for them. But at the end of the day, Mike, I really just want to see the blowout. I don't really care who wins. If it's 21 points, I'll take that at the end of the day.
There we go. Yeah, guys, let us know who you are rooting for in the Super Bowl this year, especially if you've not commented before. We'd love to hear who everyone's rooting for, and let's, at least from a skewed market stat perspective, let's hope it's the Chiefs. But continuing on, Tom, we do have some important events in the market tomorrow, especially 1 hour before market open. We have crucial jobs data set to release, including the unemployment rate and non-farm payrolls 1 hour before market open, so keep a close eye on that. And then 30 minutes after open, we do have some consumer sentiment data. All three of these events do have market moving potential, so keep a close eye on the news tomorrow because these events will move the market. But besides that, Tom, we are all set for the good stuff for today, which are some setups and predictions. A stock that is definitely on my radar right now is Uber, and it is to the upside. This stock had a pretty awesome day today as it popped up by over 8% and had some pretty good momentum in general. The price action was very consistent, which is definitely something that I like to see. The stock is not yet at a point where it's like truly overextended, at least in a broader sense, and they're recovering pretty well off of some of their losses from earnings recently. They do have some short-term resistance right around this like $70 area, which is what they're at right now. So if this stock can build enough momentum tomorrow, like close to open, and potentially break through the $70 resistance level, we might see a little bit of like some short-term momentum come into play.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching for that. This $70 resistance will be huge, and I would not be surprised if it broke out. It's been pretty crazy ever since those earnings were reported. With my first stock, I'm looking at Coinbase to the downside. Coinbase has been starting to turn over a little bit more on the daily and even the hourly charts, of course. I did notice that they posted a lower high here in the short term. You can see where it really peaked out here back in the beginning of December, right around $350. Now we're peaking out right around $310 and $300, and it's pulling back pretty hard. I'll definitely be watching for a support in the short term, right around $265 to give out. If this happens, this is where I'll be watching for the breakdown to happen. But it's very important that we really see these support zones start to give out because there's been some good bounces right around here as well. But I'm definitely watching it back to the downside, and Bitcoin has been a little bit weak in the short term too, and it hasn't been helping these Bitcoin stocks.
No doubt. And yeah, this short-term support for Coinbase is definitely something to keep close on watch. That $200 and let's say like $68 area has been, bounce off of multiple times. So definitely keep a close eye on that, and it'll definitely be close on my radar. But another stock that I'm watching pretty closely is HIMS, but it is actually to the downside. So this stock has been crushing it over the past year, and it is getting to the point where it is so overextended where I think it'll be a lot easier for this stock to like pull back than for it to continue at this point. There was a lot of selling pressure that came into play today as it fell by over 4%, and at one point the stock was weakening pretty quickly and pretty intensely. This stock is definitely on my bearish radar for just like a broader term, like a mean reversion play. I would like to see it get back down to that like $37 area and potentially even lower depending on how the momentum unfolds. But I feel like it's just so overextended now, and we're already starting to see more and more sellers come into play.
Yeah, we are. I actually really like this one back to the downside too, and I really enjoyed the upside momentum on this stock over the past couple weeks, but I also agree this is a pretty big shift in the price action. I will definitely be adapting back to the downside with this one personally, but with my next stock, I'm looking at NVIDIA. For this stock, I am actually watching a major resistance in the short term, right around $130. So I'm watching for a play back to the downside. You can see in after hours here, it's actually ripping down in a pretty quick way. And I'm watching a support coming up around 125, where we've seen a few bounces over the past few days. Now, if we're not around 125 tomorrow morning, I'll be watching for a move lower, maybe to this range, and then a break below 125. But I need to talk more about this 130 resistance overhead, Mike, because there is 1.5 million shares that were stacked up as sellers there today. That is one of the bigger sell walls I think that we've ever seen looking at the Bookmap. So 1.5 million shares, you got to have it on the radar. It's going to be a big resistance in the short term, and we're already seeing an active bounce and move lower pretty close to this level. So I'll be watching NVIDIA to the downside, and again, watch 125 as a support coming up, and then 120 underneath there.
There we go. So sounds good with NVIDIA. I will also keep this one close on watch. And besides that, Tom, we are golden for today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Teladoc to the upside.
TDOC in the short term, a pretty big resistance at 1270 today. Go ahead and make them break out above that. They rose over 8% today.
All right, with the next one, we have Pfizer to the downside.
PFE to the downside here. If they break under 2560, keep watching them down pretty close to the low of day.
All right, and then with the last one, we have Bank of America to the upside.
Ticker symbol BAC. Banks are actually popping off in a pretty good way. There's a good resistance at 48, so if Bank of America breaks that, keep watching them up.
Sounds good. So we have Bank of America and Teladoc on watch for potential moves higher, and we have Pfizer on watch for a potential move lower. These three stocks are momentum plays, so the stronger and more consistent they move, the better these setups become. As always, have stop losses to protect yourself and adjust with the trend changes as they happen. The worst thing any trader can do is trade without an idea of where their risk management strategy is set up. You have to have stop losses, because if you don't, you'll just be left holding and hoping, which is very bad because it makes your losses much larger than they should be or need to be. So keep that in mind and keep a close eye on these three setups. And let's jump right into today's $900,000 big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol PKG. So PKG has been crushing it over the past couple of years. They are a manufacturing and packaging company, and the big money here bought the 220 strike calls that expire on March 21st of 2025. For my advanced traders out there, this is technically a call debit spread where they also shorted the 230 strike calls, but this is a very interesting situation in the sense that PKG's options are not like super liquid. So when you see a $900,000 trade like this, it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's especially unusual in the sense that it can definitely indicate that the trader here has some privileged knowledge, which is, definitely good if you're able to follow along with it. Either way, looking at this stock, it has been dipping quite a bit in the short term, and it looks like the big money's buying this dip, and the stock is holding up pretty well in the short term.
It definitely is, and there was a bit of support like right around where it's bouncing, very close to 210. I know it got a little bit under that support, but it is bouncing there in a pretty decent way as well. It's not my favorite big money trade ever, if I'm being honest, coming off of that big dip just now, but the support is decent, and I think that there is a good risk reward here. Like if we break out the risk reward calculator, the risk reward tool, you can actually see like if you just go just under that support or recent low and you're targeting somewhere like right around that next resistance around 224 to 225, the risk reward actually comes out really good. So I like it in that sense, but at the end of the day, it's kind of weird to see it gapping down there like that, Mike. Like it was pretty consistent for those couple years of the upside.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I'm very excited to see how this trade ends up doing for multiple reasons. So I'll definitely keep it close on watch, and we shall see. But before we continue on, we have to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Jay Palma in the StockedUp Discord, who had a great day with Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, and Palantir, making over $1,400. So huge shout out to you, Jay. Keep up the great work going forward, and I love to see a reward to risk skew like shown in this screenshot. We can see he had 4 trades here. Only one of them was a loss, and the losing trade was much smaller than the winning ones, which definitely shows some good risk management there. So huge shout out to you, and keep up the great work going forward. There was a lot of good action in the profits channel today all around, which was nice to see. If you guys are into short-term trading, definitely check out that first link in the description in the comments down below to get in on the action. We can see today's surge bot plays hit it out of the park. We had some Uber call options alerted that popped up by 632%, Palantir calls that popped up by 539%, Citigroup calls that popped up by 383%, JP Morgan calls that popped up by 298%, and so on. As we could see that the whole list is there. Of course, you get full access to our army of trading robots. You can chat with Tom and myself all day long, access the big money trades every single day, 30 minutes before the market closes, as well as many, many, many other tools, bots, and resources. We have everything you can need for short-term trading, and it is the place to be. It'll be that first link in the description and the comments down below. So if you join, you'll hear from Tom and myself pretty soon. But besides that, guys, we have one more day left of the week, so let's make it count. Let's trade smart, have stop losses, protect yourself, follow the money, and again, keep a close eye on the news tomorrow. We have important jobs data set to release an hour before open, and we've been seeing some pretty good movement in the market in general. If you guys are new to the channel, consider obliterating that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. And let's end the week on a positive note. Thanks for watching, and let's crush it tomorrow.